right. Okay, so I'm in. All right, we're recording. Hey, boom chakalaka. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Peter Bedard podcast. On this podcast, I speak with doctors, healers, and holistic practitioners, as well as just wellness experts on how we seek joy and how to heal, how to feel good in our bodies, and how to create a conscious life of wellness. Today, I have the amazing Anne Fernandez with us, and Anne is a expert. I met Anne actually many years ago. She is a hypnotherapist and she does so many other things. She's an amazing author. We'll talk about her book. And Anne, if you have your book, I'd love for you to be able to share the cover with people. And let's just jump in and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Okay. So who am I? Boy, the big question, right?
All right. Well, don't go too esoteric. That would be
Okay.
that could be another day. But
I'll try and keep it simple. So
you have
yes,
an amazing backstory. So where you come from and how you've grown and healed yourself and all the work that you've done. So yeah.
So yes, I grew up. I was born and raised in the Caribbean on the island of Trinidad in a very small village. And lived in a community, a village, I mean, literally a village, where we all shared in that community and so on. So the great thing about that is, and I'm going to jump to something that I feel is important now, having that background of community and where everything you needed from food to medicine, everything was in that village and was shared amongst everyone. And so for what we're going through right now at this trying time, I feel myself really going back to those roots and actually talking to more and more people about that, because we need that. We need that community, that village, planting our own crops and having our own stuff in our own backyard. So anyway, this whole situation we're in has really sparked a whole lot of what I grew up with that I feel is so important and is a big part of who I am. So I came to this country with my parents, probably in 1968. And just I've always been on the path of, spirituality and wholeness. And I remember having dreams about, the pyramid, the shape of a pyramid. And to me, it always meant body, mind, and spirit. And that was actually my logo at one point, because I always feel like every approach that I take in my life and what I give my clients advice is we have to pay attention to all aspects.
Oh, you are speaking my language. I always talk about how every wound has a physical side to it, a mental side to it, and an emotional side to it. And unfortunately, the way modern medicine's set up, it sometimes addresses the mental side, but not all that successfully. And it always addresses just the physical side. So I love that there's that phrase and people kind of know it, body, mind, spirit. But how do we actually bring that into the healing process? How do we make the healing process body, mind, and spirit? Because the wound's there at all those levels. So thank you for talking about that.
Yes, I just want to throw in a little something here. I have this doctor that is just amazing, that actually functions from that belief in that place. So I feel very lucky to have found someone like that. They're very rare. And speaking of, the whole body, mind, spirit, I've always exercised. And so again, whether I'm working with someone privately or I'm giving a talk, I always address all aspects of those things. And I just feel like, especially right now, all of those things really apply even more so, that we need to get out, we need to walk, we need to move our bodies in one way or another, whether you dance or you do Qigong or whatever it is, keep moving your bodies. And of course, always, try to eat as clean as you can. For all of us, it might be a slightly different diet, but just eating clean foods and taking care of ourselves. And for me, the biggie for me is you've got to have a spiritual belief. You've got to have something that you can go to in that quiet time, in that space where you can feel, complete and connected, and where you can maybe find the answers you're looking for.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt. And I want to get into that. And I want people to know what you actually do as a practitioner. I mean, labels aren't the greatest things, but they also help us understand,
Sure.
who we are, what we do. And we don't want to get pigeonholed in a label, but it gives people the ability to sort of wrap their brain around, oh, I go to this person and they do this particular practice. So
Right.
tell people what you actually do. Then let's jump into some of that spirituality that you're always getting into that I love so much.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked that question or that you brought this up because it's true. I will say, so I am a clinical therapist. I've taught meditation for the last 35, 40 years. I've held classes and worked with a shaman and done spiritual work and all that stuff. But when someone comes to me, and if they need those labels, I give it to them. But really, when someone walks in, and I'm sure you know this too, everything might change. Whatever I had thought before goes
Oh,
out the
absolutely.
window.
Yeah.
And I am just so tuned into that person. And I may use one of those modalities, or I may include all of them at some point. So it's nice to have all those tools in my tool bag that I can go into if I need. But I think it's when you speak to that person or that person is with you that then you can actually tune into exactly what their needs are and then use one of the skills and modalities that you use. Um,
Absolutely. It's like the label of being a hypnotherapist or of somebody who teaches meditation that gets people in the door. But
right,
then once they're in the door, it's like, let's
exactly.
just, we'll use whatever tools we have. But
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
important for people to be able to say, oh, okay, I'm going to go to Anne and I have an idea of what we're going to do. Is
Right,
if they don't have an idea, then people aren't going to walk in the door. And it
right,
might be, a completely different experience per person, per client, but it
right.
helps. So thank you for sharing that sort of professional title. And you were going to go into some spiritual stuff. I know you have a very big spiritual background and you do a lot of writing and spiritual teaching. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit more about that work you do.
Well, I wanted to mention real quickly, if I may, too. I also am a master Reiki master, and I love when somebody says, "Oh, would you please do some Reiki on me? I'm going to come for a session." And we end up doing hypnotherapy work, you know, or we end up just doing a meditation or sometimes just talking. So anyway, I wanted to just throw that in
Well,
as well.
absolutely. And all those things complement each other so much to do Reiki while in a hypnotic trance or to
Right.
do some imagery work while, the energy is moving in a Reiki type of thing or with hypnosis. Those are all beautiful, all super
Absolutely.
cool things to be able to share with your clients.
Right. Yes. So you were asking about my background and spirituality per se.
Yeah, I just would love for you to share some of your spiritual history. Because
Okay.
I think you're just such an amazing light, and I know you do some speaking and teaching.
Yes.
And I know that I look at meditation as a spiritual practice. Not everybody does, but you've
Right.
you've been involved in meditative techniques for 35 years.
Yes, at
It's a
least.
it's a long time.
Actually more than that, but I didn't know I was meditating. And
Right.
it actually began when I was a kid on the islands. Because, we'd go into the sugarcane fields and run through the sugarcane fields bare feet. And I remember I would find this open spot and just look up at the clouds and the sky. And I would just be kind of taken away, to some of the place and feel
Right.
this sense of peace and calmness. But I didn't have a label for it then.
Mhm.
So years later, I'm here in the United States of America, and I find myself drawn to, well, first of all, I was able to go to all different religions in my village, in my community back on the islands. So I grew up with Muslims, Hindus, Baptists, Catholic, and we could all go to each other's church or celebrations. So it was very open. And I never felt like, anyone judged anyone else because the only way we survived was by being together in that community. So years later, I came here and I studied different religions and I also joined different religions because I was fascinated with what is it that they're trying to tell the people.
Yeah.
So I would get involved just so I could find out. And then I finally one day came to that realization, I am not religious. I am going to call myself a spiritual being,
Mm-hmm.
because they're all really saying the same thing, but there were just too many rules for me.
Yeah.
So, um, so I became involved. I started getting more into my meditation and studying Buddhism and things like that. Studying with shamans, and got very much involved into the Native American culture and sweat lodges and all of that. So
Wow.
yes, I've had years of and a history of going through the gamut, so to speak. Um, if I were to share one thing with people, I would say, please find some way to meditate. You don't even have to call it meditation, but just to be still and to be able to go within yourself and to just listen from that stillness, from that place. I just think it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can probably tell that
I could feel you kind of slipping into that energy, that meditative
I
kind of
know. I,
calming energy. And I love it, but I want to keep you here.
okay, thank you.
So thank you. But you do have some tips to share with us. Can you, I always ask people to come on the show to have 3 tips to share so
Yes,
that people can implement the type of work you do. It
yes.
doesn't replace coming to see you, but there's so much goodness that we can bring into the world. And when we bring it in the different professions and practices that we have, one of those ways may be so similar to the other, but the way that that
Yes,
person communicates it, it just will speak to different people. So
absolutely.
I'd love you to share your tips for how you connect, how you heal, how you bring more wellness and joy into your
Mhm.
life.
Well, one of the main things I that came to mind as you were asking that question is always look for the gift or the nugget, if you will, in any challenging situations in life. And as you know, I've had my own health, challenges and so on. And and I had to go through that process of finding what that was about. What was the lesson? What was the gift there?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's difficult to, find that gift, but it's always there. So I would say always look for the gem, for the gift that you're being given in any challenging situation. And of course, right now, boy, more so than ever, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
know what I'm doing right now? You gave me a quote and I'm writing that down.
Okay. Oh, good.
Always look for the gift, the nugget being given during a challenging situation.
Yes, absolutely.
I
And
love
then
that.
again, going back to meditation, just have a practice, any practice that allows you to connect with your own higher consciousness. Because, you know, people can listen to us, read our books, listen to teachers, but really it comes down to, in the end, is listening to yourself, to your higher self, to really just going within and paying attention. Because our spirit, our higher self is always speaking to us on some level, and by being still we can those answers are revealed to us. So I would say have a practice that allows you to connect with your higher self. And lastly, trust yourself.
Mm.
Trust when that intuition, when those things seep up. And when they do. I mean, you're aware something happens, something shifts, and
Sure.
So just really learn to trust yourself, because each one of us has everything that we need to be joyful, to be healthy, to be happy in this life.
Right.
Um, so just trust in your own inner instincts.
Absolutely. I really do believe that each and every one of us actually does have what we need within us
Yes,
to be happy, to be joyous in life.
yes,
So
absolutely.
thank you. So those tips are beautiful. Look for the gift inside, right? Look for the gift
Yes,
in whatever the nugget I think you said in any challenging situation, right? Listen and go within, right? Listen to your higher power, whatever that might be. And I
sure.
love how you grew up with all of those facets of religion. That's just amazing to be
Yes,
able to have that as a background. And then your third was to trust self. So really trust yourself.
yes.
Those are great recommendations and very much appreciated. How does somebody go about trusting themselves? What does that look like?
Well, I think it goes back to having a practice and going within. And it's almost like I always tell people, it's like going to the gym. When you want to develop a muscle, you want to develop your body, you go every day or you go 5 days a week, and before you know it, wow, you look great. So it's the same thing. It's like developing this inner muscle. So each time that something is you come into an awareness of something, and the first time that you trust it, the second time, the third time, each time it's like developing that muscle. It becomes stronger and stronger. And before you know it, it's just a normal thing. You don't even have to really sit for 20 minutes and meditate and go within to find those answers. Suddenly you'll just know it and you'll follow it. So it's practice, practice, practice. That's the key word.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot to do with breath for me. My going to the gym, as you say, is really allowing myself to breathe, to be present with the situation, and just seeing what my feelings are, what is going on for me physically. Am I being drawn towards this situation, or am I being pulled away from it? Right. So, I just made a video where I was talking about towards motivation and away from motivation. So if people are watching this, they can find that video as well in this collection on YouTube and Facebook. And we have a Facebook group, which Anne is part of as well, called Cultivating Joy. And it would be fun to have all of you guys on there. So Anne, tell us how we can connect, how people who are watching this can connect with you.
So there are many different ways. I have my book, which I don't have in my hand right now.
That's all right.
But it's on Amazon, and it's called Moonlight Pon Wire. And it's just part of the slang language we spoke on the islands, so instead of a pon, it's P-O-N. And that came about when we first got electricity, and all the locals said, look, Moonlight Pon Wire.
That's awesome. I love that story.
So my book is on Amazon, and I also have a YouTube channel called Wisdom Talks with Yasmine Anne. And I do a lot of talks from the Center for Spiritual Living in Yucca Valley.
Right. So not to confuse people, your island name is Yasmine.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But when I first came here, I had such a heavy accent, and, so I said it's Anne, and I just used my middle name.
Right.
So yes, and then I also, once a month, I have a group. I invite people, anyone can come to my home out in Yucca Valley, and we call it a meditation group, but it's much more than that. And so people come from all over. We have food afterwards, and there's some amazing conversations. But this group is attached to IONS, which is the Institute of Noetic Science in Northern California. And so I am one of their group leaders. And we come together and have amazing philosophical, enlightening discussions. And so it's pretty powerful. And the group keeps growing.
Awesome. And I love your message. I love what you do. And can you give out that website one more time just so people can hear it?
Oh, so it's actually on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Yes, Wisdom Talks with Yasmine Anne.
Wisdom Talks with Yasmine Anne. Awesome.
Right. Yes.
So we'll be YouTube neighbors.
Yes.
And I love that you're out there in Yucca Valley. Yucca Valley is near Joshua Tree and not too far from Palm Springs. So if people are listening internationally or outside of California, give you a geographic location right out there, out in the desert. It's beautiful up there. And it's not far from one of my favorite places, that's Palm Springs. Yucca is pretty amazing.
Yes, it is.
I'm a Palm Springs guy. So, and it was lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for being on my little podcast. It's a pleasure to always see you. And I just want to say thank you, and I love you. And to everybody else listening, thank you so much. We're excited to get the podcast back up. We're going guerrilla style at this point, people. So I hope you're enjoying it. Just you and us sitting here, get us connecting with each other. So love you all. Stay healthy. And let's count to 3. Let's wish everybody stay happy and healthy. 1, 2, 3. Stay happy.
Stay happy and healthy.
Love you all.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.